Hello. You never know how to introduce these videos, but I'm here and I'm donning my holiday clothes because I'm literally now packing to fly off. 12 hours I will be flying to Morocco to go on a death yoga retreat. Last minute decision, just randomly the opportunity came up. Timings worked perfect with the children. I was able... Moms out there, you know how hard it is to commit to a booking with friends or whatever, not really knowing if everything's going to work out time-wise, specifically when you're relying on other people. So it's worked out and I am flying off tomorrow. It is a deaf yoga retreat, meaning it's delivered in sign language. It's a wonderful woman called Beth, and she is a coder. And I remember starting social media at similar times through lockdown. Don't know why I'm signing, because I now have an interpreter, because I know now what I want to achieve, and that is accessible conversation and just me interpreting content. That was it. And then back in the day, Beth, she knew her dream. When we started on the gram, she knew what she wanted to achieve. And I'm still signing people. Stop, Hayley. I'm so proud of Beth. I'm so proud of her. And I will hopefully get her on the podcast. I will hopefully do some filming when I'm out there and make some content. But yeah, back then, me and her would have these conversations and I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want. I like social media. I like creating and content, but I'm pretty all over the place. I have no other direction. And, but I'm just super proud of watching her shape her life. And that's the wonderful thing about social media, is we can really watch one another grow. And I think recently, for definite, a lot of you guys who watch my content have been asking for help and advice in how you're growing as people learning sign language or training to become interpreters. So as you know, I'm leaving my end of the month episode of diverse conversation where we talk about how we feel inadequate as a one bonus special at the end of the month. This month's was with the wonderful Pamela, who has created an augmented reality book for autistic children. Go watch that. It's amazing. Her story of getting her diagnosis of autism for her son and how she was made to feel just completely inadequate through that process is inspiring and encouraging. But for now, we're going to zone back in on interpreting. And last week or the week before, I had a visit from a friend I've not seen for 13 years. She lives in London and we trained together at university in interpreting. So obviously I had to ask her to be on the podcast. She will be sharing her story later down the line, and she will be an end of the month episode where we talk about her journey and feeling inadequate of not being able to get pregnant and going for IVF treatment, and her experiences of navigating single motherhood and things like that. So her interpreter self will be sharing her mother journey. But I did ask her some questions about interpreting, and we conversated about interpreting. So this is what this episode is. It's another episode on interpreting. But I fluffed it, guys. I'm inadequate at this podcast host shit. And basically, one of the cameras shut off. You can't see my face. And yeah, the conversation didn't finish properly because of the recording getting lost. And it is okay though, because I'm going to talk us through the conversation. And what we're going to cover in this episode is basically how hard it is. Now, I don't want you to all be scared about how we're talking about things, because we will share our experiences and how it's just basically, I want to just show how me and Kat, who's my friend, we're both very, I'd say, I suppose we qualify as experienced interpreters now. We've both qualified in 2013, so over 10 years ago, as trainees, and kind of did our post-grad and what have you. So we're fairly experienced, fully qualified interpreters. So we're going to reflect on just how normal it is to feel inadequate, and we're hopefully going to make you feel better. And that's my whole aim of this content. Whether I do it, I don't know. But you're going to let me know, because I can only continue this if you contact me and talk to me. Hayley Brown & Co. Instagram. Go comment on these videos, share them, let's get them out there. I really want this to become something strong and building a community. A few of you have asked for groups, which I hope to do when I get a minute. And yeah, maybe this is something we can work on. So for now, let's get into it. This is an episode for you, the Inadequate Interpreter.
Our class was 14 or 15 of us.
Yeah.
We ended, I think there was 7 of us who finished.
Yeah, it always gets chopped up.
And and I don't even know if that 7 doesn't include everyone who passed. Some people failed at that 7. Out of one class, a lot of people changed to deaf studies because it was tough. It's tough going. It's a hard training course. So hats off firstly to anyone who even gets to that point.
Yeah, I think it's language, isn't it? So you're not just getting a degree, which, let's be honest, AI's farting them things out for people like left, right and centre. So I don't know what's going to happen to unis. No offence to all the students that are going to university. Keep going, stay in school. But degrees, are one thing. Being part of a community is another. And being part of a professional body. Yeah. Because I remember my lecturers being like, forget your degree and your exams, you need to meet professional standards to serve a community. So that's one thing. Yeah. And then also having a language, it's
not just language, is it? It's culture, it's history. There's so much bridged influences. So you're expected to immerse yourself into a community that you might not know very well. Unless you're a coder, a child of a deaf adult, or knew someone that was deaf growing up, you have to immerse yourself to be competent in that language acquisition, to understand the inside jokes, to understand deaf humour, deaf history, deaf politics, all of these things that come with time. And you have to be brave with doing that, because without the exposure, you can't do what we do. You can't build up your skill set.
So from that, I want you to take the realisation, interpreter, I want you to take the realisation that this isn't just a training program, a qualification that's going to get you a job. It is a very intrinsic journey. Like Kat said, it's not just a language qualification, a professional qualification. It's encompassing so many things, being part of a community, being part of a culture, understanding a culture. It's very hard because we are wired so differently. So it's such a personal journey that you cannot look at it with the same brain as a normal qualification. So please, if you're hard on yourself, know that that's because your brain is looking at it the same way it looked at your results at school. It is not that. It is not the same. We need to wire ourselves to look at this journey of becoming, and obviously you've got bills to pay. You've got bills to pay, you need a job. You're going into uni, you're paying a hell of a lot to invest in your career, and you've got to achieve an adequate skill set to go and earn money. I get it. But there's so much else that is part of this journey that will give you so much more than financial security. Anyway. And I think it's taken a long ass time for interpreters to get the recognition of that complexity behind the qualification that we have.
I like that you said that, because how many times do you rock up at a job and they call you the signer, the helper? Did you come together today? And we know all the typical myth busted. And then they say, did you have to do a course for this?
You're like,
and I'm like, yeah, I did uni. I did a postgrad, and it actually takes 7 to 10 years. Oh, wow. I'm like, I know, I could have been a doctor in the same time. That's the level of training we had. And it's the scripts that we do every single time, most of the time. And that awareness out there that this isn't overnight. And even when we qualify after 7 to 10 years, that's our basic level, right? Then if you want to do cohort, you better go train to do cohort. You need to do mental health training, community training, web developer, whatever your client is, whatever area you're in. All of those expertise then come on top of your basic 7 to 10 years training.
Don't need to put... Kat, we're trying to make an episode that's going to encourage interpreters to stay
all right,
with
my
this,
bad.
with this profession.
Okay, all right, let me break that down. This is 12 years of experience is how I'm saying it. So this isn't something overnight. No.
It's a journey. What we're trying to say.
It's a journey, 100%. This is looking back on it to get our recognition. And what I mean by that is stick to it and let people know your worth. Because even 3 years out the gate as a trainee or whatever you finish uni or your MVQ course as, you've already built up a portfolio. You've done a lot of scenarios. You're meeting deaf people. You might be working in-house. Give yourself credit because it's tough and we don't always get it right. And it's not just trainees making mistakes. We make mistakes because we're human, right? And I think it's important just to own it when it happens.
Yeah, and like I said, it is a journey, and you're never going to be in the same place once in terms of physically, but also mentally, psychologically. You're never going to feel... I think you do get to... I've definitely got to a place where I'm more comfortable and I don't overthink my job, whereas before I was full of anxiety. Should I take that? Should I do that? Should I prep this? You know, whereas now I can produce in a comfortable way. And they call that, don't they, a 10,000 hour rule or something. You do it for so many hours that you'll get to a level of comfortableness.
Interesting. Yeah.
Do you get anxious still? Are you comfortable?
Very rarely. It would have to be a very rare scenario. I'm very comfortable. I thrive off the high impact stuff. So if I've got a stage job,
you want the anxiety. Firstly, that bit just makes me feel old because now there's awareness of interpreter in the job role, but when we both qualified, no one knew what an interpreter was. There was no social media where, deaf awareness was going on or interpreter was being seen. You didn't know what an interpreter was. So when people used to ask me, they'd be like, oh, what's that? Why are you doing that? How are you doing that? Huh? And it almost gave you more self-doubt just because the world doubted your kind of role in the society. But now we're fortunate to know that our role is important. It's been recognised. But sometimes you do get those old folk that are like, you do what? You're here? Oh, are you his friend? Are you his friend? I'm like, no, I'm a highly trained individual. And so we're not, and also just to clarify, all this, talk of 7 years training for basic and then you do this, and I don't want to put you off because this is when you have other things going on or you aren't part of the deaf community and you can only go at this at a certain pace. However, what I do want the inadequate mothers that watch my show to know, when you peak too soon, you will struggle with your identity. So our careers, especially for women that have children that are mums, shouldn't be things that we rush alongside our children. We want challenges and we don't want to be bored with competence, because when you become competent at something and you're not got that challenge, sometimes I'm a bit bored at the minute, hence why I'm doing this. You want, when them kids go off and you're on your own with not much else to do, you want to be able to progress further in your career. So we are not in a rush. Financially, I understand that's different. But in terms of our development, we're not rushing this, guys. It's not a rush. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, you go the other way with it. Yeah, so you go the other way.
Your journey, you're literally just wanting the day for when you become comfortable in your profession and in your capacity to perform. But then when you are there and you're like, oh, this is fucking boring.
I won't do that.
You're literally like, oh, no, I do, because I've just suddenly realised I've got ADHD. So I know that I've been stimulated by stress and anxiety, and now I'm comfortable. And I'm just sat there and with my deaf client, and they're just like easy peasy, understood. I'm interpreting easy peasy. My mind's wandering.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
But that's because of where you got to in your profession. Because remember them early days if your client goes, we're going into a meeting, you almost want word for word, like, what are you going to say?
Yeah. Tell me everything
now so then I can perform. And then you go from that to, like I did some meetings this week with an organisation. I don't work with loads, and it was a lot of voiceover, and I loved just going into it and just naturally doing it and thinking, job well done. But the new me would have panicked thinking, what are you going to say? But actually, if you just trust yourself and take a few extra seconds to watch and allow that time lag, that is one piece of advice. Don't be scared of time lag. That is a big thing. And it does feel scary to do because you want to stay on top of the message. But give yourself a few seconds, because as we know, it's not word for word, it's meaning for meaning. So you need that whole sentence really to then go, okay, this is how I'm going to interpret it, meaning based. So just wait.
Your omissions and stuff like that. I remember someone telling me, or a really highly qualified and respected interpreter was talking about how, like, there was so much of the interpretation that couldn't be interpreted, and you almost have to take that understanding where it's better for me to omit a little bit and get everything else really good and understood, rather than me try and give everything and it just come out crap.
Make sense.
And then so 100% of it doesn't make sense. 60-70% of it, if that, it's better to have that look making sense.
Yeah, can you justify it?
And then
the core message
and then later down the line, the bits that you have took out, you can pick up on later if they're really important.
Yeah.
But at the moment, sometimes it's really important to just focus on the clarity, and yes, we are there to ensure equal access, but that access is to be understood rather than give everything and sign as much as I can. So,
Time lag is something I would not give. I was like, hell no. Because if I go too far away, I am distracted. I am ADHD as hell. If my kids are around me and they're asking me a question and something else is happening, like, they've lost me. I am just all over the place. So if I don't stay on top, I used to feel like if I don't stay on top of what's being said, as soon as that other thing gets being said, that other bit is gone. So that's a skill that will take time. But you have to trust yourself and not be fearful of losing things, because you'll keep them. They're there. And if they're important, then you can pick them up. I don't want these episodes to be like, oh God, like the deaf community hates me because I'm just telling all these interpreters to just, not worry if they don't get it all. It's important that deaf people have access to all the information, but we have to acknowledge that sometimes we are not understood very well if we try and get it all.
Because I really want to just, like, both of us share, like, a little moment where we felt really inadequate, and like how we've dealt with that, and like how we talk to ourselves.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, going back maybe a few years into freelance, I remember avoiding jobs like the plague if I knew it was going to be predominantly deaf voiceover, which we all seem to panic to do. And in my training, I was trained by Peter Llewellyn-Jones, who is like the legend in interpreting and for academia and all of that, and I did my postgrad with him. And I remember him saying, I don't know why interpreters fear this, because technically you should be more confident going into your first language, English. So I try and keep that in my mind, but those situations are intimidating. And I did one where I didn't know I'd be doing this team meeting, maybe about 15 deaf people, a very experienced older interpreter with me who knew the team very well. And the team back then weren't too interpreter aware, so there was a lot of inferences when they didn't have to sign full because they understood each other. They
so
worked
there's
with each
15
other.
deaf people?
Yeah.
And they're just 2 interpreters?
And a note taker. Yeah, and maybe one or 2 hearing people, hence why we're there, and for the note taker.
That's hard though.
It's
you're
hard.
then the voice of 15 people, right?
Yeah, so you've got no context really. The other interpreter knows well, but you don't know that everyone signs differently. They all know each other really well. So a bit like with family or friends, you don't always finish your sentences because you bridge the inference, right? Same thing. So there was a lot of kind of stop-start, who are you talking about, da-da-da. But you don't feel like you've got that control at that when you're quite new in the game. You don't feel, so I remember just feeling like, oh my gosh, let the ground eat me, and it's my turn in a minute. I've got to take over from her, and she's doing such a great job.
And also, if you're not understanding it,
yeah,
and you're struggling, Yeah.
It was tough, and she was really supportive. My co-worker, she was great, and she would give me little bits of advice about how I was voicing, like just maybe just do it this way or that way, or give yourself more of a time lag. She would say that. So she gave me some really good tips on how to present the voiceover. It was hard to put into practice because I was nervous, and I think I avoided it like the plague that meeting for a little while. But then I got to know the team better and started doing it more regularly, and I could just walk into that now with ease, even if I didn't know all of the deaf participants. I felt a lot more comfortable, but there was a joint effort on that because the team also got better with working with interpreters. So you've got deaf awareness and you've got interpreter awareness, and it goes both ways. So if you're walking into a new meeting and they're giving initials for someone, or you don't know the gender of a name, is that whole, we're talking about this person, and giving that context and working with the interpreter as you're working with your client. It's a two-way street, isn't it?
And I think that's really important to touch on, and it's one thing I remember I was like, this is not just a two-way thing, this is a people thing. We're all in this together. We all need to contribute. That deaf person is responsible for having their clarity as well, as much as you, because you are human. So as much as it can be annoying for a deaf person to be like, come on, you are only where you are because you are where you are. So I would, like, for instance, I've worked with like a theatre company, and I tell you what, the arts people are the best people to work with. The arts and the religious, they're the most forgiving audience ever. Like if you're ever developing, go to churches, go to theatre groups. That's
good advice. Actually.
They're a vibe. And I remember walking into a theatre company and being like, this is where I am. I've just qualified. My co-worker, you have to accept you are way better than me. Because there's also that dynamic when the interpreter arrives, the co-worker arrives, who's the more experienced interpreter? You will have to be okay with being the inadequate interpreter on the day and feeling like that other person is carrying the show. That is normal. That is part of the game.
Yeah.
We've all been there. So if I'm a lot confident to my co-worker, I am just thinking about all the times where I was the one and how much help I got. So we're all in this together, and the deaf people as well are all aware of this. They've had it most of their lives. So just being upfront, transparent, and being like, okay, this is where I am, and I'm struggling with this, or I'm struggling with that, or I don't feel confident with this, is going to immediately alleviate the pressure, leaving you a cognitive space to perform better.
Yeah.
And that is it. That's all we've got to do. And it's just kind of accepting that. So I think, if you didn't hear that, listen to it again.
100%, because I was going to say the same thing. Just be transparent, because that weight on you, especially if you're walking in as a TSLI or someone that's new, just being upfront, I'm a trainee, or I'm quite new, or I've never done a conference before, or this is my first time doing a mental health booking, and often that person will turn around and be like, don't worry, I've done this, I actually know this client, here's XYZ.
Yeah.
And then they're actively supporting you then, because they're conscious that you don't know the setting. And we do this now as experienced RSLIs, right? You might go into something knowing that other interpreter knows the team so well, knows the client, and you just say that, and then you've got that support, and it goes the other way now, doesn't it? Where we meet people who are like, do you know this family, or do you know the context? And you can offer that support. It's a team effort, like you said.
Yeah, and having that transparency and being confident to be like, I don't feel confident right now, but I'm here because I want to learn. Yeah. You're not going to get that experience unless you are inadequate in the room, unless you are doing the job. And it, like I said in the beginning of this episode, I said there is an internal battle, because that deaf person deserves adequate access.
It's high pressure. It's high pressure, for sure.
It's high pressure. And you've got to manage that high pressure. So this isn't about us saying, you're human, you're going to fuck up. Because we believe that, deaf people deserve highly skilled interpreters. Yeah. But you are not. I never would have gotten to being a highly skilled interpreter unless I'd accepted all the fuck ups and the inadequate feelings and the just. That journey, that learning journey, and just being kind to myself. And I think that's why we have a lot of dropouts. I think that's why people don't progress, because they're just so hard on themselves. And
I think that's what it is. I think it's the inner voice.
So that's all I've got of the footage of the conversation I had with my lovely, beautiful interpreter friend, Kat. And I want to thank her for coming on to this channel. To just round it up, because that was a little short and sweet episode. I'm in Morocco. I've done this quickly. And before I go, just to round it up, you know, as she was explaining in her example of when she just felt completely inadequate, voiceover for me as well, still to this day, is something that gives me anxiety. So I have just established my boundaries before I take a booking, especially remote. You know, I will do an episode, I think, explaining how the changes that have happened in remote interpreting in terms of the responsibility for clarity. Like the responsibility, because it's 2D and not 3D, it's very hard, especially if you're kind of a visual processor. I don't know if there's research that can show like the difference in processing from 2D to 3D, but I definitely feel like there is a difference. And voicing someone over I've never met who's just on a screen, I can do confidently now, but I just want to make you feel okay for having kind of those fluff ups. I don't want you to feel like you should never accept jobs. If someone on screen is getting frustrated that you're not understanding them, that's okay. They're allowed to be frustrated. What you need to just do is work on your anxiety and your response to their frustration. Because another thing what I think is really important, and I'll leave this episode with this, is that we understand that when someone's frustrated with us or their communication barrier is flaring up, you know, they're having to repeat themselves, or we're not understanding them, or, you know, there's the communication breakdown, the interpreter's not understood, whatever, and they might display some frustration. We can control how that makes us feel, because they're allowed to feel that. That shouldn't make us feel less. But unfortunately, society has wired us. It's a bit like with women. When you have a beautiful woman in the room, you will more automatically feel less beautiful than you did an hour ago when that beautiful woman wasn't there. Like, why is that? Like, our worth, our adequate professional ability shouldn't just disappear the moment someone might get like frustrated, you know, and then kind of just it's a two-way thing. And I'm not saying there's blame on their part, your part. It's just communication, it's connection, and that connection isn't going to happen if you're there worried saying, I'm inadequate, I'm fluffing it, I'm messing up. You might have not understood, you might have made a mistake, and that person might be getting frustrated, but let them. Mel Robbins, she's done a book called Let Them. I need to read that. So on that note, we're going to end this because I'm going to Morocco. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope to improve on my interviewing of interpreters. Yeah, this is a vibe. Hopefully it won't, I need to protect, hopefully I won't get cancelled. Talking about interpreting so openly, but we are where we are, and if you tell me that this helps you, then I'm gonna help you, because we need more interpreters. That's the fact. The government legalised sign language as a British language, which gives deaf people the legal right to access the world with sign language, but the government didn't think how they were going to do that. And was there enough interpreters? There is not enough interpreters, guys. So my job is to keep you going, keep you flowing, keep you on this journey. Yeah. Anyway, I'm off to Morocco. So before I go, give yourself a pat on the back. If you've learnt a new sign, give yourself a pat on the back. If you've completed an assignment without any frustrated people's faces, give yourself a pat on the back if you haven't, because you deserve the pat on the back for just being here, just showing up, for just continuing, persevering, developing, all the ups and the downs, the fuck ups and the achievements, it all. You need a pat on the back for it all. Thank you for watching Inadequate Mother.